go through different things differently. So it's just being there for when the community calls. Really wasn't expecting a question, so excuse me for that.
Well, we are not just regular officers. Mike and I, my name's Lorna, we do mental health. That is what we do, that is our focus. So, actually something that's really exciting that's new, if you call our dispatch center now at Des Moines PD, you get a recording. Do you need police, fire, EMS, or mental health services? Because we recognize how much we are responding in the community to people who need mental health services. So we think that's an opportunity for people to identify for themselves, yes, that's what I need. And I'll tell you what, we've got some options. If you call Des Moines PD, you might get one of us, you might get two of us, you might get one of us, a mental health professional through our mobile crisis response team, and you might just get two mental health professionals. You might not get us at all. We are fortunate to have a crisis advocacy response effort program, and again, it's all safety-based, right? Because we want to be safe in our response. But we are really happy to offer a variety of responses in our community. In fact, we actually have somebody in our dispatch during the day, Monday through Friday, that's just a mental health professional in our dispatch, ready to answer questions. So, if you're struggling, I just want to encourage anyone to reach out. That's what we're here for. We signed up to be of service. That's what we're here to do. Huh? Yes. Any questions?
I have one. So, as a former mental health professional, and I really do like the idea of having an option for mental health to respond, does that response still come with a gun and an air of authority in order to solve a situation? Or are we approaching people as thinking, feeling human beings?
So it comes safety first. Okay, so I can't give you a blanket answer for how that response is going to be because the details dictate the response. So someone's just, let's say somebody's calling, I'm struggling, I'm down, I'm having suicidal thoughts. There's people struggling with that every day. There's nothing inherently dangerous about that. We recognize that. So our dispatchers are trained, they're gonna be the ones to determine who's gonna come out actually. They go through a triage process to determine that, and then they're gonna decide, okay, yeah, we can just send out two mental health professionals because there's no need for a gun, right? But, so again, it would just be the details. If it's safe, we don't need to send a uniform officer out there. We recognize it's gonna be a softer response and more effective not to get past this barrier of a uniform.
I have a question. Have you been trained to identify suicide by cop?
Yes. Yes, unfortunately that is definitely a trend we are dealing with. And I've personally had people, that just want to be shot. Yes, but we're doing great things with de-escalation training. One of our trainers actually for the department, and recognizing that somebody's in a crisis, it's a cry for help. How do we slow that down so we don't have to act?
What are some key indicators that you use to identify those types of situations?
A lot of times that person is calling on their own behalf. They might be setting something up when things don't make sense. It could be, we had an example, one of our training videos, a guy stole a pop at a convenience store and then he's just set it down, he's waiting. He knows that there's going to be a police response. Like as a police officer, I know that's not normal behavior, right?
Right.
So just little things like that could be it. But a lot of times people call on somebody else's behalf, hey, this person's, I'm worried about him, can you check on him? They have said suicide by cop. Sometimes we just give that information so that we already know.
Do you see that more common with drug addiction?
Drug addiction brings more erratic behavior, more dangerous in general. I would rather do somebody with just schizophrenia any day versus somebody that's high on methamphetamine. That's inherently, in my experience, much more dangerous.
How much training is needed? You said that as a police officer, you know how to identify normal human behavior. What sort of certification or education or licensure do you have to determine what is normal human behavior?
We are not licensed mental health professionals, so there's no licensure for us. However, we do the 40 hours of crisis intervention team training, is a whole curriculum based on how you respond to something in a mental health crisis, how you recognize it and how do you respond. Because if you go to that kind of call with authority and command presence, as we call it, you're not going to get the right reaction, and you're probably going to amp up that person. When you go to that call, I knock on the door and I say, hey, my name's Lorna. I'm here to help you. Tell me what's going on. So I'm a person talking to another person that's in crisis and getting beyond the uniform, because that's all I am. I'm just a person, just like anyone else, to make that connection and get them to be open up to me so that I can get their trust, give them the direction what they need so they can be safe and get them what they need.
How do we bridge a trust gap knowing that police are protected and able to and often do lie to people in order to have their ends meet? How can we trust you as professionals when you have a constitutionally protected, argued at the Supreme Court, that you do not have a duty to help us?
Can I take a pause on that just real quick? We have some, because this is youth town hall, we have some youth questions. So we're going to move over to that just so we can't get on off topic and whatnot.
I have a question.
All right, we're just going to add for our youth real quick, and then we'll be back into the audience.
I still have a microphone. Everybody wants it.
What inspired you guys to be cops?
I'm from here, so it was just my duty as a person to contribute to my community. So I volunteered to become a police officer. Okay, now, thank you.
I have a question. I understand if you can answer this because it's not like you control the prisons, but I wonder what you guys are doing for like prisoners' mental health when people are already in the institution, because it's nice to have that like on the line and outside of it, but what are you doing for the people inside of it who are traumatized by being in prison and who are traumatized by the institution, and then who eventually, whenever they do get out, if they get out, they eventually go back in because of their mental health? And there's a lot of people who went to prison and came out worse people when they didn't even have to go. It's hard to explain because this is not your fault. Well, it's not your fault personally. It's just like the system and the fact that you're a police officer. It's not you as a person. But I just feel like that isn't enough when the people inside of your institutions that you put in there, who honestly could have been prevented from being there in the first place, are being traumatized by the places that you serve. And I'm not trying to like question your job. I'm not trying to get you to change anything. I'm just simply like stating my opinion and asking. I just feel like it's not enough to do that, and it's not that it doesn't really matter, but it kind of doesn't when there's people in your institutions who eventually get out and are still traumatized and go back in because of that trauma that they have from your institutions. And the fact that mental health and the prison system are so intertwined and connected, where it kind of feels like everybody in prison has mental health problems. If they've been out of prison, they have mental health problems. And I don't think it's very fair to those people, because at the end of the day, it's not their fault, and they're being punished for it. And I get that they did crimes, but those crimes could have been prevented, which isn't exactly your fault, because that's because of economic status and poverty and, mental health and all these other things in the environment that they live in. But I just wonder what you guys are doing personally, not personally, but you guys are doing as police officers to work inside the prisons, because,
So, just to kind of sum it up, we personally can't speak for them because, like, Polk County Jail is ran by Polk County Sheriff's Department. And we just transport them there, and it's the judge who determines their sentencing, if they're guilty or not. We can't answer that.
I just wondered your
If I could, I would.
Yeah, I just wondered your stance on the whole entire matter as a police officer, since you basically still serve that kind of, it's like kind of thing. I get that you personally can't change it. I'm not asking you to, and I'm not asking for what you are doing. I'm just saying, how do you feel about that, knowing that what you do kind of plays in part of that? I get that you have good intentions. It's the system overall. It's not nothing against you or your intentions. I bet you really do want to help people. It's just, I feel like, it's not even like a question. I'm just saying my opinion for real. I'm just saying that I don't think that the phone line and the mental health stuff is enough when that's happening. Yeah.
we having a big conversation. You don't have a mental health specialist here. Just go in circles now. You gotta have a mental health specialist here to know what they're talking about. So what you're talking about is when somebody get incarcerated. I've been incarcerated, I'm in the streets, I done did it all. If he got a job to do, my job is not to get caught. His job is to catch me. Once he catch me and I go in the center, that's on me. So at that point, you can't really blame him. I got caught for doing wrong. So let me forget it. And most people who go in, that's my age or from the streets or from the projects, we already got post-traumatic stress disorder anyway, before we go in there. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think you understand that. Even with the teachers, y'all and the teachers, trust me, they want the same thing you want, help. Teachers want help like you want. So somehow, maybe create a student association, maybe create a teacher association, a kid association.
Can we keep it to the youth? We're gonna get to the adults after we're done.
You can keep it to the youth, but if you're gonna talk about mental health, have somebody here that got knowledge. You don't have it and I don't have it.
This is a youth town hall. So whatever the youth feel comfortable about talking, let them get off their
If you're
chest.
gonna have it, make sure mental health specialists here so the kids.
Good evening, everyone. Yelena Abdullah. I'm a first-year student at Drake University. Last year I was at Roosevelt High School. And I really needed to be here. And I feel like mental health, as they said, and they talked about it a lot, it's a big thing. They're just really, I know we talked about like systems, schools, cops and everything, but we really don't talk about parents, because students spend like 8 hours at schools, but after that, 8 hours out of 24, they spend that much at home. So parents also play like a big role when it comes to mental health. And I feel like if my parents talk to me, or like if I have an issue, they talk to me and everything, I wouldn't feel the need for a teacher or someone at school to talk to me about that, like for real. And I'm so glad we had two mental health professionals, but I feel like there was like a lot going on and arguments going on, but they didn't say anything just to clear the air, and it felt like they should have said anything. And Neil didn't mention that we have to we have these people here, so they could have just said something and like make sure we're all on the same page. And yeah, and I feel like, so one thing about schools, they also, I'm not sure if all schools have like mental health professionals, like therapists and everything, but I know Roosevelt had 2 or 3 therapists, but some students don't really go to them. Like they need, I feel like we should have like guest speakers, so like we can, because if I want, like, it's really hard.
Anything in school that you don't like or you don't feel comfortable talking about or addressing?
My name is Yashveen, and I'm from Sudan. Like sometimes students like don't like to like talk about things they're not comfortable with because they think like the other teachers are gonna tell their parents, and they kind of scared to like tell other teachers. But like other students should like try to talk about their like kind of like lifestyle, and like other teachers should like try to help them. And yeah. When I feel sad, there's some friends that will help, and that makes me happy. And whenever I get disrespected at school, I just like try to go with the flow and like not do anything about it. And even if I did get disrespected, I would just feel offended. But if it was like part of my family, I would be like very offended. I would want to do something about it. And yeah.
One more question for you guys. Do you guys feel happy to go to school, or there's some things that are making you not feel happy about going to school?
I do feel happy about going to school, but like like sometimes other like students just don't like other students, and they just start like talking about them and basically just say bad stuff about them and try to get in their nerves. So the other students just want to like feel like they want like help, but they can't ask for help because they think they might get in trouble for that. So yeah, some kids are getting bullied for how they look or like what skin color they are, and that shouldn't really be a thing.
I like to go to school, but I don't. I don't like to go to school because I have to wake up at 7 in the morning and I have to get ready. I like to go to school because I get smarter every day.
And one thing I kind of want to say to you guys is don't really let anybody affect you in any negative way. Just know you guys have a voice and your voice is powerful. And one thing we will make sure is that your guys' voices are heard. This is what this youth town hall is for, and we want people to make sure of that.
I feel like a main theme, like a central theme of this entire conversation and discussion is like inaction and like wanting to do something and talking about the problems. And I know it says it's solution based, so I feel like something we can do is, I'm talking to the youth, I'm not talking to adults, I don't, okay, but I'm talking to the youth. I feel like there should be more of a demand, because you see how the superintendent isn't here. There's no principals of any of the schools or high schools. There's no administrators. I mean, there's probably some, I don't know. But there isn't like, yeah, Roosevelt, Mr. Shapoff, he's not here. Whoever the other principals are at the other high schools and the middle schools, they aren't here. And they aren't listening. I mean, they might be listening, they might see this, but they're not here to actually talk to us and see our faces when we're talking and have me, look them in their eye when I'm saying stuff. And I feel like there should be more pressure on them, because I feel like a lot of schools have schools and school boards, they have background people who make all the decisions and control everything, but they aren't actually there with the kids. They aren't there during the day with the kids and with the students there. So I feel like starting something with all the schools, not just one school. I feel like with all the schools and having them connected in one big group and putting pressure on all of them to actually listen to what we're saying and change something and get something done, I think that's super important. I think that everybody that came to this should come together and start something and actually do something about it, since we're all from different schools. We're all from different parts of Des Moines. And I feel like if we actually make a group, make a big group, get all our friends involved, and the people who actually care and join, there should be enough pressure for them to listen. I want an event where all the high school and middle school principals and even elementary school principals are lined up in there, and all the vice principals and all the hall monitors and all the administrators are there and listening to what people are saying. Because every single time somebody does say something, it gets an answer. Unless you're somebody that they actually listen to and care about, like student council presidents and like all these other people in leadership positions. And again, no offense to them, it's just that I feel like regular students who actually have to deal with the stuff all day should be able to have a voice and be listened to and be heard. Because I feel like it's really disrespectful to kids when we do stuff like this and go to stuff like this, but the people I'm actually talking about aren't here and they're not listening to what I'm saying, and they think they can just sit back at home and not listen to the people who actually have something to say. I don't know. I feel like there should be the student, I keep bringing up student council, but there should be leadership groups at school that focus on actual important things like mental health and like the social stuff and like peer pressure and burnout and motivation. Every single thing we talk about here, they should focus specifically on that, not homecoming, not saying those are important. Obviously, I like homecoming, I like all of the homecoming weeks and things, but instead of focusing on TPing the school, the football games, drawing chalk, obviously that's school pride and people should be involved with that, but I think we should focus on the more important stuff, because again, none of that matters if all the kids are dead, and none of that matters if all the kids don't want to be there. They can't go to to the football game if the football players don't show up because they don't have the motivation to go to school or go to the game or go to practice or anything like that. I think that if we, I feel like this is like a call to action to everybody in here to actually get up and start something and do something, because I want to get up and start something and do something. I haven't done it because I've tried to, but I don't know who to talk to. I don't have a big group of people that I can talk to. I feel like the people that I would go to wouldn't care, wouldn't join. But obviously there's a, what's the word? There's an interest in that since there's people on this panel and kids in the audience, students in the audience. I think that if we actually got together and put enough pressure on their backs, that something will actually be done. Because as much as we can sit here and talk, I think if we don't actually have action, nothing will happen. And I'm not saying this isn't important. Obviously it is. That'd be hypocritical of me being here and talking. But we can talk all we want, but if we don't actually start yelling at the principals and actually telling them how we actually feel bluntly, nobody will listen. We can't keep dodging around and doing circles and trying to be nice to them. Because at the end of the day, it's affecting our lives and our mental health, not theirs. They don't have to sit there and go to the 8 classes every single day. They don't have to sit here and deal with all the problems and with the mental health problems. They just stand up and be, above it and say that they're working towards it, but they're really not, and they really don't care.
So a lot of other kids, they want to all come together and start something about bullying, and there's lots of different types of bullying, like normal bullying, cyberbullying, and a lot of different stuff. And they just start saying stuff about your family and your color and how they're different color than you, or how you're just darker than the other person, and that shouldn't even matter because it doesn't matter, you're the same color too, but you're just lighter than them. So they should not say something about race, just because they're the same color too, but just a little lighter.
Okay, so the Utah Hall is kind of wrapping up a little bit, and I do kind of have a big question that I want to ask. So most times we're blaming teachers or we're blaming people for not helping us, but do you think, this is kind of for our panel a little bit, do you think that your peers are taking accountability for when they are wrong? And anybody can start with this. I want you guys to be as open as possible because we often tend to take a toll at everybody else instead of looking at ourselves or even looking at what our peers are doing.
No. It's a big no for me. Only because I'm a senior. I started this year, so I've been a leader in school for the past I'm gonna say 2 years from now. And this year started with a lot of drama and a lot of beef because a lot of students, in the leadership class or that have a voice wasn't taking accountability or wasn't, showing they was wrong. Does everybody know what money hungry is, right? I just started using this word, and a lot of my peers I see as power hungry. Everybody wants to be on top. Elections are about to start for president and vice of North High, and that started a lot of beef, which it shouldn't have, and because a lot of people wasn't, showing their wrongs. And we do have kids who roam the halls and kids that skip and sit. We have this thing at North. It shouldn't be a thing, but it's called we have a tree that sits outside of North, and it's called the smoke tree. And those kids will sit there 8 hours a day, just out there, chilling. And the teachers just stopped going over there. They stopped caring. They let those kids do what they want to do because they chose to not get that education. They chose to not want to go inside and learn. And how I always say it is, if you're not gonna come to school for 8 hours, go get a job for 8 hours. So yeah.
Me personally, I think it's the way people speak about this topic is really black and white, and there's no like nuance to it. It's either the kids are lazy and they don't want to work, or it's not their fault at all. And I feel like it's obviously in the middle. There's reasons why these kids make these decisions. And again, yes, they're making decisions on their own, and everybody can understand that. But at the end of the day, they wouldn't make those decisions if those things hadn't happened to them. And I think if we focus on that instead of trying to get mad at the kids, I think working towards that more, because I feel like the way school leans, especially school and society in general with police and policing and stuff like that, it leans into punishing people instead of focusing on the problems and why these people make those choices. And because I had a lot of friends who skipped and who smoked and who did a lot of bad things. But I had known these people for like 4 or 5 years, so I knew why they did that. I knew what their home life was like. They told me about it. So again, I see that they are making those choices, and of course I try to tell them, hey, let's go to class. Hey, let's not do that. Hey, let's not do that. But I'm not slow enough to not see why they were doing that, because there was reasons why they acted like that and why they didn't care about school, because they felt like they couldn't be anything. And I think if we focus on telling kids that they can be something, they wouldn't make those choices. Going back to my representation point, again, a lot of kids don't even push for that, because the places they see where they are excelling in school, like Central and Academy with all the advanced classes, when you walk into Central, it's like a flashbang. There's nothing but white people there. So obviously, sorry. Well, it's not nothing but white people, but that's the majority. I have a lot of classes where I'm like the only black person in there. So
Don't say sorry for it.
When kids see that, especially young kids, they see that, they think that they're not supposed to be there. And when they have other kids around them who are telling them, hey, let's not go to class, let's go do this instead, let's go out and be in the streets or whatever, stuff like that, obviously they're going to listen to them, because that that goal seems so far away from them. So again, yes, I think that kids do need to take some sort of accountability, because at the end of the day, it is their choice to skip. It is their choice to do that stuff. But I think instead of trying to punish them for that, which is only going to make them resent school and make them want to do it again, because again, like I said, all my friends who were skipping and stuff, when they got caught, they would start talking about the teacher that caught them, not actually going to class. They would find ways to get around that. They would find different places to leave class and different ways to get out of class and stay out of class. And I think if we go back and show kids that they can be something, they wouldn't make those choices. Obviously, kids are still going to do it because kids are going to be kids, but at least we can say that we tried to tell them. Because I feel like school doesn't try, they just punish.
Like the comments back, kind of like minimum 2 minutes, just because we kind of have more questions from our audience. We kind of want to hear from our adults a little bit as well. So, just that.
I got a question. Whenever. Now, I'm a football coach, so we use football to get the kids' attention. I know they really love it, right? So if they talk back to their parents, we'll tell them they can't play, and they'll act right with their parents, just like in school. So my question is, what other things can y'all think the school could provide, or after-school classes that will get people's attention outside of sports?
Okay. Well, first off, like you said, you're a football coach, and I don't know if maybe you realize this, but personally in my experience, I feel like when it comes to schools, high school and specifically college too, all the funding kind of goes to football, which good for y'all. You guys are creating a space for not only young males, but mostly young black males, and there's not a lot of spaces for that, unfortunately, for young black males. And it shouldn't just be sports, that are making those spaces, but unfortunately that's how it is. So I think it's just more, as a coach, advocating to, you know, whoever your manager is, even if you feel out of touch with them, to really advocate for not only the males but also the women and all the different in between. Because, you know, whenever we talk about sports in school, I went to I went to, where did I go? Was it Harding or Hoover? Hoover. I went to Hoover not that long ago. And they talked about how they just didn't feel like the funding for like women cheer, like track, women's swimming is just, it's at a, like they had to make the money themselves, which should not be a thing. Yes, you should work for the money, you know, the funding, but the football team doesn't have to do that to the extent. So I just feel like advocating for the other teams, because you can't take on, you know, usually it's a male-dominated sport, so a lot of women aren't coming to you. So you as a male coach, you know, being a football player, your part would be to advocate for the female, the black, brown, white, Hispanic, you know, youth. So I think just using your power to advocate for others that don't specifically like look like you or come to you, I feel like that's a big way you can help.
What I want for like probably after school or something is for soccer practice, because me and my brother have been wanting to do soccer practice, but we don't have time to sign up. And we want to be just like Ronaldo and Messi.
All right.
Kind of following up the last question, do you guys feel like you guys can hold your peers accountable? Like, do you guys think you guys can take that step in holding your peers accountable, or are you too scared?
I'm personally not scared, but also if I don't feel like people are taking in the information and actually listening, personally I'm not going to put in my time, my emotion, and my effort into those people, because people will take your energy like no other. So I think just as long as if you are wanting to advocate for the youth or whatever you want to advocate for, make sure that you are, yes, give people a chance to listen, but the moment that you see that they don't listen, then you need to move on and go to people that will listen, because those are the people that will stand right beside you and conquer whatever you're trying to conquer.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, I kind of asked, do you feel like you guys can hold your peers accountable, or are you too scared?
Okay. Well, for me, yes, I can hold my peers accountable. And sometimes, well, when we look at like the behaviors that our peers are performing, sometimes they're doing it for attention. In a way, it can be a call for help. So being that person to call them out for the behavior can be like, it can be eye-opening for them. It's something that they can need in order to make that change. So I feel like making people accountable is very big, because if not, I mean, what change or what difference are they going to want to make with themselves? They're going to keep going down that path. But if someone calls them out for that, they're going to realize that they're in the wrong and that they need to make change, especially if they're aiming towards a certain passion or goal in the future. This is that. Sometimes you just need that person to speak up.
Not speaking for myself, but speaking for others, I don't think a lot of people are scared, but at least in high school, there's a lot of people who find ways to start beef or start drama. So just, you know, we can have those leaders to approach, you know, those kids to,
Okay, reset the question. Do you think you can hold your peers accountable, or are you too scared?
okay, so going back to what I said, approaching those peers who, you know, do roam the halls and trying to, you know, maybe say to them like, hey, you want to graduate, right? But we do have those kids who want to fight about that, want to start beef about that. There's some kids who will dive an ocean to start beef. So, speaking for everybody, I don't think people can, approach other students without them not avoiding a problem.
So I think, like me myself, like I'm a very big leader in my school. I would like to think of myself as one anyways, but I think that for me, it's not necessarily hard to like recognize those problems in other students and like reach out to them. But I think my biggest struggle with that is like having my own responsibilities and my own struggles that I need to tend to as well, my own priorities for myself. But I think the biggest thing that would help students is just seeing the role model and the teachers and the staff and other students as well. I don't think it's normalized as much to have those conversations and to reach out to people that are struggling. And I think that would be the biggest help, is just to see those role models and teachers and have like those problems, like dive deeper into them, because I don't think there's enough like role model for that. And I think a lot of kids are like embarrassed that it won't work out type of thing, not necessarily scared, but like have other responsibilities and like not seeing enough of it to feel brave enough to go and do it.
So I think it's less about holding our peers accountable as holding us accountable ourselves. How are you supposed to hold your peers accountable if you can't hold yourself accountable? And realizing the mistakes that you're making and how you're gonna better yourself in the future compared to how you're gonna help your friend out in the future.
Sometimes when you hold your peers accountable, you're helping yourself as well.
Yeah, 100% agree.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're talking to yourself sometimes when you're talking to your peers. So you're actually helping yourself when you see something that you don't like, that you'll say to yourself that you're not going to do it yourself. You know what I mean?
And it kind of goes to saying you are who you hang out with.
Yeah.
So if you see yourself hanging out with people that you aren't able to relate to or are, I guess the word is like, able to see yourself in, then you're not able to hold them accountable because you can't hold yourself accountable for even being a part of that group in the first place.
Okay, this is off topic, but I do want to ask a question to the panel. Well, not too specifically for two peers. As non-colored students within DMPS, do you guys feel like you have a higher advantage or more privilege than your other peers that are colored?
Obviously, I don't know the struggles that other people of different races have gone through. As deeply as I want to understand the, I guess, privilege that is seen in my skin color, I don't necessarily agree that I have a better privilege. I think it's more that I hold myself more accountable personally, not off of my race, but off of what I want to achieve in my future.
As a white person, I find like myself, like I go out of my way to intentionally like recognize and like hear from other people themselves the struggles that they face with their race. Obviously, as a white person, I am aware of my privilege, and I do everything I can with that privilege to do what I can to elevate the voices of others, and that has always been my goal and always will be. I find myself having a lot of opportunities, but I also am always advocating for more opportunities for people of color, and always like supporting those and advocating for those even when like I can't be a part of it myself, such as like Science Bound. I'm always like encouraging other students to be a part of it and other stuff like that. Obviously, with the power that my skin color brings, I have more privileges in certain areas, but I don't necessarily
I never ever want to abuse them, you know what I mean? Like, I do everything in my power to use what my voice and my privileges to elevate the voices of others, because that has always been my priority.
All right, we have 7 minutes left, 7 minutes left of this youth town hall, so we do want to kind of hear from the adults that have kind of heard the youth talking a little bit. We did say that we were going to give you guys like a chance to speak, so with this 7-8 minutes, I'm going to ask the adults, do you guys have anything that you guys want to say? And I kind of asked you guys to kind of keep it a minimum of 2 minutes, just so we can kind of get around if we can. For him, who's first now, we're going to see you.
Definitely keep it brief. I wanted to commend all of the young people for having the courage to come out and speak your truth from your perspective. And I want to thank the individuals that hosted these young people, because your voices are very important. And believe you me, they are being heard. There's only 2 things that I want to say to you, and that is to give you hope. There are numerous resources. I think the problem is just linking you to those resources. And there is a great big disparity on who has access to those resources. So people of color who aren't connected, having advocation from individuals like you is very, very important. I do want to say to the young lady that said that she wished that the superintendent was here. I do want to tell you that Des Moines Public Schools has a new superintendent. His name is Dr. Ian Moe, and I am very optimistic that he will be accessible and available to any of you. And the things and principles that he stands on addresses all of the issues that you all are talking about here. And I think that's an incredible thing that we did in Des Moines for our Des Moines Public Schools in selecting that individual. He is a person of color, and he's a doctor, and he's young, and he is very relatable, and I think that that's a bright step in the right direction for some of the concerns that you all have. That's all I want to say. Good job.
Just piggybacking off of that, oh my God, the opportunity to actually listen, and I got notes. Every single thing that you said. Because when there was a statement about mental health professionals, my degree is in human services psychology. I started out in residential treatment and then went into working with families. I see you. I see you. I hear what the main point that I got from this and what you guys are asking is that you want to be treated like humans. You want to be treated like individuals, and you want to be treated like thinking, feeling humans. A lot of the things that I'm listening to these youth talk about tonight, these are things, and I'm going to turn away from you guys real quick and talk to the adults. These are our issues to solve. Their behaviors and their outcomes are not going to improve until our behaviors and how we think about things change. So, just going off what I hear right here, and I just want to give a shout out to RJ real quick, because I went back and started watching old TMPS school board meetings, and you were the first person that I saw speak, and you were talking about the lack of community engagement. And I was driving here tonight, and a couple songs came on, and I'm from rural Iowa, I still have a little bit of country in me, and Reba McEntire's song, Why Haven't I Heard From You, came on. All of us, all of our elected officials and people that are running, we have phones, we have emails, I'm accessible. You can reach me. I came here tonight wanting to hear what you guys have said, and I'm very happy to see that our values align very much on what I want to bring to that school board. So know that I want to listen to you. These notes are going home. These notes are getting typed up. These notes are getting added to my little Bible of things that I look at before I go. Because what you guys have just told me is your voice, and I intend to listen to it if you were to vote for me on November 7th, to continue to do these things. RJ, invite me to every single one of these. I want to be here. I want to hear what you guys have to say, because my joke is that I have to deal with you guys in the future. I don't got kids myself, but I got siblings. And I'm thinking about what our future looks like as somebody as a child of this individual. These kids are going to be taking care of us. These kids are our future. We got one that's the next future, and all of these kids right here are our actual. One of the things that I saw and what really came out when you were talking about engagement, and what I felt is like, I wrote something down. Hold systems accountable, and if they're not responsive, we need to dismantle them and rebuild them to meet our needs. Our school board is supposed to be the heart of our community. We're supposed to have our fingers on the pulse. So let's get engaged, keep doing these things. If you guys want to talk to me more, I can give out my email address, my personal phone number, whatever you want. Get in contact with me because I want to be your voice.
And I have 2 more people that I'm going to answer questions from the audience.
Okay, so I ain't necessarily a question, but first of all, shout out to the panel. It takes a lot of courage to come out and speak your heart as far as, you know, the issues that you guys have present. But a lot of the people in the panel mentioned that they have these issues going on with them and they have nobody to turn to. One thing we had when I was a kid was strong community neighborhoods. Parents knew each other. And we weren't best friends, but the neighborhood looked out for the kids. Like if the kids were fighting, you know, hey, you better get back to the house, I'm gonna tell your mother. We don't have that anymore. We have like an anti-social community now. It's like, I don't know if it's social media inspired, but nobody wants to talk to each other. And I feel like the only way we can give our kids someone to talk to, people to look up to, is if we get back to a community. And I'm not, like I said, we don't have to be the best friends, but we at least have to know each other enough to look out for the kids. I mean, we have kids out here, they have guns, no one knows. They're fighting, no one knows. They're going through stuff, no one knows. We have to be close enough to give those kids the ears, to be the lookout, to be the watchdogs. And I feel like unless we bring the community together, we're never going to be able to help our kids.
And I will be brief also. I just want to say to the panel, thank you. I also want to say don't give up. You know, this is a struggle that's been going on for a long time. In fact, this is a struggle before some of you were even a twinkle, you know, in your mother and father's eye. You know, when I was 17 years old in the Black Panther Party, we took the school board to task. We walked out. One of the things that we struggled for was that just even have Black history taught in the school. The other thing we struggled for is that so students would have a voice. That's when 17 years old. I'm 72 now. All right, the thing is, as a state legislator, we fought for the same thing. And this is years, decades later, we're fighting for the same thing. And here I'm sitting, listening to you say, this is what we got to do if you want to make a change. That's what I'm saying. Don't give up. It's going to take time. And even when you graduate, you got to go on to college. And you still got to struggle. Because every revolution that has ever taken place has been done by young people. They're the ones who have made the change. But the key is, don't get caught up like a lot of us did in trying to play in the game. It's time for it to change the game. The game has to change. One of the things when you said that no politician had given young people a forum, we did years ago. It was called the Downtown Team Program, and we produced a TV show for 3 years called Team Talk. And at that time, it was the young gang members that did the show. And they did it for 3 years straight. And then individuals started trying to play the game and then took it off the air. You have to take the leadership that's being offered to you now by individuals that are here to continue the struggle. It's an uphill struggle. This is not a downhill. This is not a race, you know, a short distance race, it's a marathon. So that means, as the sister said earlier, you have to bring these young people to be able to stand on your shoulders as you have to understand the shoulders you stand on. Because everybody in here stand on these shoulders. All of us do. I have shoulders I stand on, you have shoulders you stand on, and you would grade your shoulders for them. So don't give up, keep struggling, you know.
I like it that y'all fight for, y'all fought for RJ. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we need to, we say we want leaders, and then when we get these leaders, then you gotta understand our leaders are getting, we're fighting for getting things to help our community. And then our own community tries to break the leader down. You know what I'm saying? So when I saw y'all fought for RJ, that was beautiful for me. Because we need more of that. That's how we're gonna get more leaders to stay leaders and be strong, because we got people that's actually fighting. The numbers, when you have numbers, the numbers will help the leaders, you know what I'm saying, go further.
Preach.
So thank you.
I wanted to circle back to what you said about the community, because where I grew up, I didn't grow up here in Iowa, I grew up in Washington, and where I grew up was a lot of poverty, and you know, majority of our parents were working all day. Some of our parents were single moms, or dads were in prison, like mine. But like, we didn't come from a lot. We didn't have a lot of money, but the one thing we did have was our community. Everybody in the block knew each other. Like, we would all ride our bikes everywhere. We would go down to the little mini shop, we would get snacks. You know, I had friends who, you know, didn't know where their next meal was gonna come from. And, you know, I was lucky enough that my mom worked really, really hard, that they would come to my house, and even if they had nowhere to sleep, they would sleep in my bed. I would feed them. You know, I would be there for them. And I think if I didn't grow up around that, I wouldn't know, like, I feel like I would be so lost without that. And like, I don't know, it really benefited me because, you know, we experienced a lot. You know, we were around drugs, we were around gangs, and you know, I lost a lot of my friends and family to that. You know, we can't really blame from where we grew up from for how we are now, but I feel like we can grow from it and change the cycle and become better. We don't have to repeat history over and over again to learn from it.
Alright, the time is now 9:04, and I know a lot of you guys still have a few questions in the audience, but hopefully we can get another town hall in place. RJ and I will continue to keep fighting for you guys and continue to have your guys' voices be heard. But I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I know a lot of you guys are tired and hungry and just want to get going. So if you do have questions that haven't got asked, I just ask that you save them for the next town hall. And yeah, thank you.
I want to speak on a resource that I personally have. I work with Infinite Resources. We are a recruiting and staffing agency, and I heard that there are some people that you know, have been incarcerated, and we have second chance employers. If you are needing a job, I work with Infinite Resources and I get people jobs. That is literally, our job is to get you guys jobs. If you have been incarcerated or have a criminal record, you can come to me and talk to me. We have second chance employers, y'all, if you are needing a position.
Before everybody goes tonight, can I have everybody's attention real fast? Real quick. I know we were showing love to RJ, but I do want to show love to Miss January Hudson. As you, this girl hosts